Welcome back to the CHRONO TALK channel, and in this video I will talk about what are the criteria to a watch to be called Swiss made. So basically, you all probably know that a watch that is a Swiss-made watch is usually not 100% made in Switzerland. But usually the lay people, the normal customer, the normal consumer, they didn't know that. They really think that a watch that is a Swiss-made watch is absolutely 100% made in Switzerland. And even though in some cases it is, in most cases, it's not. And there are some rules that are written down in a Swiss federal ordinance. What are the criteria to a watch to have the right to have the inscription Swiss made on the dial, or only Swiss, or any other kind of inscription that it doesn't give any doubt that that watch is made in Switzerland? This ordinance dates back from 1971, and it was updated in January 1st of 2017 after a discussion that started in 2007 to strengthen the rules. Because one of the problems is that some brands were taking advantage of the margin of Swissness that you could use in a watch to use, for example, one single part that was very expensive and made in Switzerland, and all of the other parts made somewhere else. And even though this is still kind of possible, it's much harder to make this kind of trick. So one important thing is that this ordinance, it talks about watches only, watches and its parts. It doesn't apply to other Swiss products. So the rule to a watch to be called Swiss made is actually quite simple. It have to follow 4 criteria. First one, the movement have to be Swiss made. Second, it have to be encased in Switzerland. What it means is that the movement have to be put inside the case in Swiss territory. The third, the final inspection had to be made in Swiss territory as well. And fourth, at least 60% of the production costs have to be originated in Switzerland. And prior to 2017, it was 50% instead of 60%. It looks like not very much, 10% more, but together with other rules, it actually made the rules quite more strict. So now, what a movement have to be considered a Swiss-made movement? First, it have to be assembled in Switzerland, and this means that some parts they can be assembled elsewhere. For example, an electronic component, an electronic module, it can be assembled because it's composed of a lot of parts, but when it comes to Switzerland, in case it's made somewhere else, it's considered as just one single part. So the entire electronic model is one part, so this not takes into account on this. So what are the criteria to a movement to be considered Swiss made? First thing, the movement have to be assembled in Switzerland. Second, the movement have to be inspected in Switzerland. And third, 60%, at least 60% of the value of the movement, or at least 50% of the cost of all the parts have to be generated in Switzerland, except the assembling costs. So that's where the rules got a little bit stricter than they used to be, because prior to this, you could make a movement with like 4 major parts, like the balance wheel, the escapement wheel, the pallet fork, and the hairspring, which were the most expensive parts in a movement. You could make only these 4 components in Switzerland and everything else outside Switzerland, and the movement could still be called Swiss made. With the new rules, it got a little bit more strict, so some companies cannot take advantage of this trick or not as much anymore. Of course that the rules, they have some exceptions, because some things cannot be counted or cannot be into this account, because for example, you don't have crocodiles in Switzerland. So if your watch have a crocodile strap, you fatally have to have imported leather. So there are some materials that cannot be taken into account on this calculation. So basically, these are the criteria for a complete watch. Again, first, it have to have a Swiss movement. It have to be encased in Switzerland, inspected in Switzerland, and at least 60% of its production costs originated in Switzerland. And for the movement that have to be inside a Swiss watch, it have to be assembled in Switzerland, it have to be inspected in Switzerland, and 60% of its costs, or at least 50% of the cost of all parts, have to be originated in Switzerland. And also you can use, there is other rules that you can use for cases and also bracelets. That's why it's not rare to see the case can receive the inscription Swiss made, or the bracelet can also have the inscription Swiss made, or even the clasps have this inscription. And other inscriptions that are possible is Swiss parts for movements, because for example, ETA or Honda, there are movement manufacturers, they have most of their quartz movements, they have Swiss versions that usually are destined to the Swiss market, and also have the same movements assembled in Asia, but eventually they have Swiss parts in them, be it electronic modules or wheels, and then they can use the inscription Swiss parts. Another thing that is possible is you can have a watch that is made elsewhere with a Swiss movement. In this case, you have the right to use the Swiss movement on the dial, but you have to be very clear that is only a Swiss movement. This means that you cannot use, for example, different types of letter, like using a big font to mention Swiss and a very small font to mean movement, and to let someone think that it's a Swiss watch. So you have to use a very clear type of font with letters with the same size and the same shape, and very clearly Swiss movement. That's all that you can use. And basically that's it. I hope you like it. Hope you learned something new from this video. Give me your thumbs up in case you like it. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and keep following.